So why is it so important that you attach your intentions to your goals? Why is it so critically important that you attach your intentions to your goals? And what does that even mean anyway? Well, the answer may surprise you, but I will tell you this, that failure to understand that question and answer that question and know the answer to that question, and more importantly, do the answer to that question, places you in the company of the over 93% of the people on the planet who never reach their dreams, goals, and desires. And that's pretty scary. You don't want to be in that company. So I'm not only going to show you and answer that question for you, but I'm going to give you something that you can do. It's going to help you place yourself in that upper 7%. And by the way, most people don't set goals. Matter of fact, most people, if they do set their goals, here's how they set them. New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, they say, I'm going to lose weight this year coming up. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to have the happiest year I've ever had. And that's as far as it goes. They say that. There's no plan behind it. They just say it. Usually it's like at a New Year's Eve party and they, had a little bit of liquor in them or something like that, and they don't really remember. They don't really mean it. And then guess what happens? The next day comes up and it's just all business as usual. It's an estimated 80% of the New Year's resolutions that people make, which is their way of setting goals, are the same ones that they made last year. And here's something. They made them last year, but guess when the next time they checked in to see how they're doing was a year later. Now, we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, but here's what I want you to understand. Goal setting is not the end, is not the gold standard, for lack of a better term, for making things happen. It's just step number one. It's just one of the steps that if you don't do that one, then you don't have a target to shoot for. You don't have something that is going to cause you to do something about it. And so what I want to introduce you to or talk to you about is something that I call the power of the pull. When I learned this, it changed everything. Because I'm like everybody else. I wanted to do this. There was a time in my life, I remember thinking, gosh, you know what? I would drive around in Hollywood. I live in California. And I'd drive around, I'd look at all these mansions. And I'd look at all the cars. And in those days, money was a thing because you may or may not know this, but I was homeless once in my life. And when I started to be able to get out and do some things, I'd look and I'd think to myself, go, gosh, I want to make money. I want to have a better lifestyle. I wanted to be rich. And so I would drive around in Hollywood and I would look at all of these houses. I'd look at all these mansions and the cars parked in their driveways. And I'd look and I'd think, what do these people do? What do they do? They can't all be movie stars, but what do they do? And every once in a while I'd get a glimpse of somebody coming out and they look like just a regular person. And I remember thinking to myself, well, this is what I want. And I learned, and I'll be honest with you, I read the book Think and Grow Rich, and in there was a goal-setting workshop. And I thought that was it. And I wrote down on the paper what my goals were. It wasn't just for that year. It was for that year that I was going to do, but then in my life. And I remember saying that I'm going to own a mansion. And this mansion is going to be 5 bedrooms. It's going to have marble floors. It's going to have all of these things. And it's going to be in a great neighborhood. And it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to have this kind of car. And I wrote those things down. But guess what? I didn't get them right away. As a matter of fact, I procrastinated. I got some things, but I didn't get those things. It took me a few years to get that. Because I didn't know the secret formula. I didn't know that was only step number one. Now, I did do some things, and all of us do these things, let's just say unconsciously. We don't know that we're doing them, what I'm about to tell you. But when I started to be conscious of them, and I started to recognize that, well, wait a minute, this is, let's say, the linchpin, if you will. This is the Rosetta Stone that makes it all work. And like I said, it's something that I call the power of the pull. Now, what does intention mean? It's just a big word for your reasons why you're doing it. Intention. What is your intention for making money? And by the way, you've heard me say this before. I use losing weight and making money and things like that because they're low-hanging fruit and everybody can relate to it. Not saying that you got to lose weight or that you want to make money. I'm just saying that these are things that you can relate to. And they're synonymous with everything else that you want to make happen. And so I want you to look at it this way. First off, the reason why you want to set a goal and how you set your goal is you look at your goal and you say, okay, well, wait a minute. Is this something that I want? And And is this something that I desire? Or is it something that somebody else wants? And this is important that you do this, because oftentimes people will do things. I did it for a long time. When I grew up, I had a well-meaning father. And my father was amazing. I love him. I wrote a book about him. It's around here somewhere. And my father did not complete his high school education until after he had started a family. He joined the service and all those things. Then he went back to school. So he was very, very, very strict and very all for education. Matter of fact, he used to tell us, you have to stay in school and keep a good job or you'll be digging ditches. That was, in his days, that's the way that it was. And so he would always tell us, listen, and we got lots of praise when we did, my sisters and I got lots of praise when we did really well in school and scholastically and things like that. And so I'm an artist and I'm a musician. My mom was a musician as well. And I had that going through my veins and everything. And that was my goal. I really wanted to be a musician. I wanted to get a recording contract and I wanted to play music and things like that. But in the back of my mind, I would always hear my dad's voice. My dad's voice would always say, you got to stay in school and keep a good job or you'll be digging ditches. So guess what I did? See these diplomas on behind me and everything? I got my education. And that's what I did. I went after it. And I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying that's not what you should do. But it took me a really long time to do that. It took me almost 11 years to do what I should have done in 4 years and maybe 6 years. And the reason being is because my heart wasn't in it. I didn't have that power of the pull. And I was doing it to make my dad happy, not to make me happy. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't regret it, and I encourage it. Get your education. And, by the way, while I was getting my education, guess what else I was doing? I was playing music, and I was doing all these other things as well. If I had to do it different, I'd probably do the same thing again. However, if I realized the drive, if you will, behind why I was going after my education, and I applied that to what I wanted, then I would do them both quicker. Because I set goals. I was going to have my master's, I was going to have my PhD, and I wrote those things down because I knew about writing things down. But my heart wasn't in it, and I didn't really push after it. And I did the same thing for music. But guess what? Guess what I excelled in? I got a recording contract, I did all of that stuff, and all those things were great. Why am I saying this? Because it's important that you understand that intention is another word for your reason why. And when you have your reason why, it gives you the pull from the inside. See, push and drive is hard. Nobody likes to be pushed, and nobody, that drive to do something. When you get it, you got one of these on your face and everything, and I've seen so many people, and I did it as well. You burn out because you're driven to do this, to get up early. I got to do this, instead of going, I get to do this, and oh, look what I get. Your reason why is what pulls you. There is a scenario that I've used a lot. Silly scenario, but metaphor, if you will. But it's true. It may help you understand why this is so important that you have your intentions attached to your goals. And why it's so important. And this is the missing piece that most people leave out. And that is this. Suppose there's a house, and this house is surrounded by a moat. It's on like a little island. It's surrounded by a moat full of water. And in that water are alligators and crocodiles and sharks and piranhas and poisonous fish and electric eels and just nasty. You step in that, you'll die. And around the outside of that moat is a chain link fence that's 10 feet tall. And on the top of that chain link fence, there's barbed wire and saber wire. And there's a big sign on the fence that says this is an electric fence. If you touch it, 220 volts of electricity are going to flow through you and burn you up and you'll die. And you and I are standing outside that fence, looking at the house. And I say to thee, I go, listen, if you go in the house, on the bed in one of the bedrooms is a $10 bill. And that $10 bill is yours. You can have it, no questions asked, no taxes. That is your $10. Now here's the question. Would you go get in the house? Would you risk getting electrocuted, eaten by piranhas and alligators and electric eels and all that nastiness to get $10? Unless you're crazy, the answer is absolutely not. Risk versus reward. No, it's not worth it. But watch this. Same situation. House, moat, alligators, crocodiles, sharks, piranhas, all that stuff inside there. Same electric fence all the way around it. And you and I are standing outside the fence. And I say to you, I go, listen, inside the house, laying in the bed in one of the bedrooms, asleep, is the person that you love the most in life. Your sister, your brother, your mother, your father, your child, your friend, anybody that you love the most in life. They're in that house and they're asleep. And the house is on fire. And if you don't get in and wake them up, they will burn to death. Would you get in the house now? I've used this all over and over again. Huge audiences, 10, 15, 20,000 people. Everybody goes, well, hell yes, I'll do it. That's the person I love. And you'd figure a way. You'd dig under the fence. You'd do something. You'd find a way to make it happen. Why? That's the answer. Because you have a strong enough reason why. You're not being pushed to do it. You're being pulled forward. You're being pulled to go make it happen. Now, that's a bit of a morbid example. But what if I used another one? What if I said to you that, listen, if you get up early, stay up late, do the extra stuff for 1 year, just 1 year, I want you to get up at 6 a.m. every single morning, and I want you to work out, I want you to do this, and I want you to do that. And at the end of 1 year, I'm going to deposit $70 million in your bank account. Tax-free, no questions asked. Would you do it? The answer is a resounding yes. You'd get 2 or 3 phones to make sure that you woke up at 5:30 in the morning. You'd go for 1 year. That's all I got to do is for 1 year and I get $70 million. You have a strong enough reason why to do it. And all you'll be thinking about is that $70 million and what you're going to do with it. Buy your parents a house, buy a car, all this stuff, the life that you're going to live. And then you'd be counting the days till you got it done. That is the power of pull. That is intention. And as long as you know that, see, I'm using money as an example because some people will say, yeah, well, I want to make $1 million. If I've heard that, I said it before. If I've heard that 1,000 times, it wouldn't surprise me. More than that. But guess what? I didn't make $1 million until I realized that what I'm going to do with that $1 million. I didn't realize until that I started to go, okay, it's not the money. Because you've heard that before. And I even remember thinking, somebody saying that to me, Joseph, somebody that was really wealthy, go, Joseph, it's not the money. It's what you're going to do with the money. It's what you're going to do with the money. It's what you're going to do with money. And I would think, okay, I'll make that decision myself. It is the money. Have you seen this POS, this piece of crap that I'm driving around? Have you seen the house that I'm living in? And I would think about all these houses that I saw down there in Hollywood. Well, guess what? One day, when I got this that I was talking about, I sat down and I said, I want to make my parents' life comfortable. I want to be able to contribute back to other people. That's the reason why I'm doing this. I want to be an example so that other people that have been homeless, other people that have been in the situation or worse than I am, then they can have some hope and they can do something. I want to be able to educate people. I want to be able to teach people. And those were and still are my reasons why. And as a matter of fact, that came from when I was at the worst time in my life, when I was homeless. Somebody came to me and they changed my life. That's the person that gave me the book Think and Grow Rich. And when I went back to him and I said, well, listen, you've changed my life. Thank you so much. What do I do to repay you? What he said to me was, Joseph, how you repay me is you do the same thing that I've done for you, for as many people as you possibly can for the rest of your life. That became my reason why, and it's why I do what I do right now. And guess what? The money, the lifestyle, and all that stuff comes along with that. You see, I don't work just to make money. I work for that reason why. That's what makes me get up early, stay up late, and do the extra stuff in it. Not that particular one, but it's what makes you do it as well. If you're a parent, why do you go the extra mile to take your child to school, to do all these things? Well, I'm going to give you a little hint. It's because it makes you feel good. That's your reason why. You're doing that because it makes you feel good, but it's also what pulls you forward. You see, your child prospering, you feel good and all these things. Those are your reasons why. Listen, you get up and go to work and do your job every day, not just to make the money. You're doing it because as you do that, it makes you feel good. Your reasons why that you're doing that is because I get to support my family. I can do all those things. As simple as that sounds, when you get clear on that, everything changes. Now, so before I tell you, let me tell you how the story, it didn't end, but about 3 weeks ago, I've got a very, very dear friend. His name is Victor Wooten. Victor is a 5-time Grammy-winning musician. Dear, dear friend. And he was playing, his band was playing in Los Angeles, and he invited me down to see it. And he also invited me to, let's, have lunch or have dinner before the event. So as I was driving down there, now I live in a place called Newport Beach, and Los Angeles is about 45 minutes away. And it's 45 minutes away if you just drive, but if it's traffic, it's going to be worse. And so I gave myself like an hour and a half to get there. And I left early, and I'm driving up there. There wasn't that much traffic, so I got there early. And so I started driving around. As a matter of fact, my GPS started to drive me around a little bit in different places. And all of a sudden, I started to feel a little bit emotional, like, oh gosh. And I realized this is the same place that I used to drive around back when I was a teenager and looking at all these houses. And there was one particular house. I get a little emotional when I think about it. There's one particular house that I pulled up in front of, and I looked at that house. Now, that was 30 years ago. And so this same house is 30 years older and everything. And I looked at this house, and I thought to myself, and I realized that I've had houses bigger than that house already, cars nicer than the cars that were even in the driveway back then. And I realized I hit my dreams, goals, and desires. I had passed that a long time ago, years ago. Now, I'm not saying this to brag or to boast, but I am saying to you that I stopped thinking about the house as being the goal. I stopped thinking about the house as being, my goal that I'm going. And I a long time ago, so much so that it just became an automatic thing with me. And I started thinking about what I'm going to do with it. So, having said that, what are your reasons why? So I'm going to give you a formula, if you will. Number one, write down your goals. And there's 3 areas that I always talk about: health, happiness, and financial abundance. Now, you can break them up any way that you want to, but those are the 3 areas. What do you want? And you can put a time limit on it. I always say, give yourself a year, 5 years, 10 years, set it apart whenever you're going to do it. Number 1, write your goals down. Number 2, write down your reason why you're going to get that, why you want it, why it's a desire, why is it your goal. It's so that you can, if it's financially, so that you can build a financial wall around your family, so that you can buy a boat, you can buy a car, you can have all those things, whatever it is. Don't just save the money. If it's your health, it's so that you are able to do the things with your grandkids, so that you can go out and do this and enjoy life, so that you can be disease-free, so you can have energy. If it's your happiness, so that you can go through life joyful. And by the way, all those 3 things are it's what we call a cybernetic loop. And if you do them, then guess what? Those are your reasons why. So number 2, write down your reasons why you're going to do it. Number 3, you got to have a plan. Is it attainable? Is it attainable? And what that means is I'm telling you, you can go ahead and be unreasonable. That's okay. But you got to make sure that it's attainable. And what I mean by that is you got to make sure that it is something that I always say this, that it's not going to hurt anybody else, that I can and will do in a reasonable amount of time. In a reasonable amount of time. Whatever that is, am I going to be able to do it? Because when you ask that question, and guess what? You might go, it will only be attainable if I what? If I do this, if I do that. Your brain starts to work. And then lastly, you must, after all these things, you got to revisit it often. You got to turn it into a vision. And a vision means that you got to look at it over and over again. You got to say it over and over again. All the things that I've shared with you on so many other of these podcasts, that you got to see it. You got to say it. You got to move your body. You got to do something about it. And then you got to reward yourself, which is the last step. You got to reward yourself for any progress that you make. Reminding yourself constantly as you're doing that. This is the magic sauce. And this is the awesome sauce, if you will. Create your reasons why. And you separate yourself from the 93% of the people on the planet. And you get to be one of those people that you look back years later and you go, my goodness, I wanted that a while ago and I've had it for years and years. Take this and remember this. Life is exactly what you dare to make it. And fortune, whatever you call fortune, favors the bold. And so the trick to life is to always boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. I will see you at the top.